Good evening, everyone. Let us start. Remember, we have been learning about Chapter 10, Human Settlements of Geography textbook, Fundamentals of Human Geography. In the previous class, we have learned about rural settlements, and today we shall discuss about urban settlements. Now I will present so here we have the topic urban settlements. In this paragraph you will find some features, facts and figures of urban settlements. So here is an important line, an important feature. The first urban settlement to reach a population of 1 million was the city of London by around AD 1810. Let me repeat. The first urban settlement, the first city in the world to reach a population of 1 million, that is 10 lakhs, was the city of London by around AD 1810. Okay, so this is an important information. Then by 1992, approximately 175 cities in the world had crossed 1 million population mark. So by 1992, total number of cities in the world which had reached 1 million population mark, okay, is 175, and presently 54% of the world population lives in urban settlements compared to only 3% in the year 1800. So this table number 10.1 shows the trend of urbanization in the world, and if you see this table, you will find that in the year 1800 the total number of this urban population in the world was 3%, and by 2017 this 54% of the world population lives in urban settlements. So that means this urbanization has been rapid. Okay, so here it is also mentioned rapid urban growth is a recent phenomenon. That means see, in the year 1800 3% of the world population was urban dwellers, and in the year 2017 54% of the total population of the world are living in these cities and towns. That means urbanization in the world has been rapid. Now let us see this classification of urban settlements, and see the definition of urban areas varies from one country to another. So here let me bring you one very important statement which we have already discussed in the previous class. That is, there is no consensus on what exactly defines a town or a city. Okay, do you remember the statement? So here is the full statement. Settlements can be differentiated in terms of rural and urban, but there is no consensus on what exactly defines a village or a town. So it means that, it implies that the definition of urban areas, okay, or the villages varies from one country to another country. So we don't have the exact criterion, okay, to call a settlement as urban. It varies. The criterion, the principle varies from one place to another place. So some common basis of classification of urban settlements are this: size of population, occupational structure, and administrative setup. So these are the three important bases or criteria for classifying settlements, okay, into urban. So the first important basis is the population size. Now let us see. The lower limit of the population size for a settlement to be designated as urban is 1,500 in Colombia, 2,000 in Argentina and Portugal, 2,500 in USA and Thailand, 5,000 in India and 30,000 in Japan. So in this way, the definition, okay, of urban settlements in terms of this population size is also different from one country to another country. Say in case of Colombia, for example, if the population of a settlement has reached 1,500 population, okay, then the settlement is called urban. Likewise, in Argentina, if the population of a settlement has reached 2,000 population, then that settlement is called this urban. Likewise, in USA, okay, the lower limit of the population size for a settlement to be designated as urban is 2,500 in USA and Thailand. In the case of India, it must be 5,000, and in case of Japan, it must be 30,000. Okay, then means in Japan, see, if you want to call a settlement as urban, the population must be at least 30,000. Okay, then let us see further. Countries with this besides this size of population, the density, okay, the density is also taken into account. Say for example, countries with low density of population may choose lower number as the cutoff figure as compared to densely populated countries. That means, so in the countries where the population density is very low, okay, so they choose a lower number as the cutoff figure, and whereas in case of densely populated countries, they choose a higher figure, okay, as a cutoff. Say for example, see, in Denmark, then Sweden and Finland, all places with a population size of 250 persons are called urban. So in these countries, the density of population is very, very low, and hence, so if a settlement, okay, has a population of 250 persons, then the settlement is called urban, a town in this Denmark, Sweden and Finland. And likewise, the minimum population for a city, okay, is 30 in Iceland, whereas in Canada and Venezuela it is 1,000 persons. So in all these countries, the population density is very, very low, and that is why this cutoff figure, okay, the cutoff figure for the this urban settlement to be called urban settlement is very, very small. Say in case of Ireland, Iceland, any settlement, okay, which has the population of 300% is called urban. And in Canada and Venezuela, okay, the cutoff figure is 1000%. So in this way, okay, the size of the population, okay, in case of this size of the population as this important criterion, okay, is also this debatable. As I told you, that there is no consensus on what exactly defines a town or village. So you have to remember that point, okay. The definition of the cities, towns varies from place to place. That point you have to remember. Any question from your side? Okay, let us proceed. Then let us take up another important criterion basis, that is occupational structure. So this is another important basis for classifying a settlement, okay, as urban or rural. So here the major economic activities, in addition to the size of the population in designating a settlement as urban, are also taken as a criterion. So in some countries, in addition to the size of the population, okay, for classifying a settlement into urban, so occupational structure is also taken into account. See, say for example, see, in Italy, a settlement is called urban if more than 50% of its economically productive population is engaged in non-agricultural pursuits. For example, in Italy, a settlement is called urban if more than 50% of its economically productive population is engaged in non-agricultural pursuits. That means in these non-primary activities. Whereas in case of India, okay, the cutoff is 75%. India has set this criterion at 75%. That means in case of India, if the this percentage here of these non-agricultural pursuits, okay, to the this total number of this economically productive population is 75%. That means, see, in a settlement, if 75% of the population, okay, is engaged in these non-agricultural pursuits, then we call it urban. So that is the point mentioned here. Okay, so remember, in addition to this population size, this occupational structure is also another important criterion for classifying a settlement into urban. Okay, so in Italy, if the population engaged in these non-agricultural pursuits is more than 50%, we call it urban. In case of India, it is 75%. Then the next important this criterion, okay, for classifying this urban settlement is administrative setup. Okay, this is also an important criterion for classifying a settlement as urban in some countries. For example, in India, a settlement of any size is classified as urban if it has a municipality, cantonment board, or notified area council. So in case of India, any settlement, okay, which has a municipality or municipal corporation or cantonment board, okay, that is a military station or a notified area council, we call it this urban. Okay, say similarly in Latin America, say American country like Brazil and Bolivia, okay, any administrative centers is considered urban irrespective of its population size. In case of Brazil and Bolivia, any administrative center, okay, any place, okay, which has administrative setup is considered as urban irrespective of its population size. So these are the three important criteria for classifying these as settlement, okay, as urban. So up to here, do you have any question? Okay, about Italy, okay. Okay, see, it is here. It is here. Say, as I have already told you that in addition to the size of the population as a criterion for classifying a settlement as urban, okay, occupational structure is also taken into account in some countries like Italy. So in Italy, a settlement is called urban if more than 50% of its economically productive population is engaged in non-agricultural pursuits. Okay, that means here economically productive population means, say in geography we have these three S groups, right? See, in geography we have three S group, that is 0 to 14. Known as young or children, then 15 to this 59 we call it adult or this economically productive population, then 60, okay, 60 and above. Okay, so this as group is the economically, okay, economically this productive group, this one, economically productive population, they are the workers, okay, 50 to 59, they are the workers, economically productive population. So in Italy, when they calculate the percentage, okay, of the these people engaged in non-agricultural pursuit, they take into account only this economically productive population, not from the total number of population, okay. If 50% of its economically productive population is engaged in non-agricultural pursuit in non-primary activities, we call it this urban in case of Italy. But here in case of India, actually, if the population, okay, if the people engaged in this non-agricultural pursuit is about 70% or more, okay, then the settlement is called urban in case of India. Okay, are you clear, Basti? Okay, then let us proceed. Here, next we have this here location. Okay, here actually this big paragraph tells the factors for the location of urban centers. Okay, the factors for the location of urban centers. Now let us see what are the factors affecting the location of urban centers or cities. So here, location of urban centers is examined with reference to their function. So location of urban center cities is determined by their function. Okay, location of cities, urban centers is determined, affected by their function. Say for example, the siting, okay, the siting requirements of a holiday resort are quite different from that of an industrial town. You know that for the holiday resort we need a hill station, okay, we need a place, okay, of scenic beauty, for example for the hill resort. And likewise for the industrial town, say we need say availability of the raw materials, okay, resources, availability of the mineral resources required for the industrial town. And likewise, okay, say for the military center or a seaport also, okay, location is dependent on the function. For the seaport also we cannot locate anywhere because it has to be located only at the sea coast. And likewise see these strategic towns require sites offering natural defense. Then mining towns require presence of economically valuable minerals. So in this way, location of these cities, okay, or urban centers is determined by their function. Say for the mining town, okay, we cannot locate anywhere. See here in Manipur we cannot locate this mining town because we don't have these economically viable resources found in Manipur, okay. And here industrial towns generally need local energy supplies or raw materials that I have already mentioned. Then tourist centers require attractive scenery or a marine beach, a spring or with medicinal water, or historical relic spots, okay, and ports require harbor. So these are the different these examples, okay, different examples telling the function of the these urban centers, and which in turn affect the location of the these urban centers. Okay, any question here about these factors affecting the location of urban centers? Any question? Okay. Okay, then see, and here actually locations of the earliest urban settlements were based on the availability of water, building materials, fertile land, just like the rural settlements. Last time we discussed about factors affecting these rural settlements. In that we have learned, okay. And likewise, earliest urban settlements in the world were based on the availability of water, building materials, and fertile land. But today, okay, while these considerations still remain valid, this modern technology plays a very important role in locating urban settlements. Sometimes some cities are not related with this availability of water or the building materials, because this water, okay, can be piped. So this can be supplied using these pipelines to a distant places. Then building materials also can be transported from long distances. So in this way, nowadays this availability of the building materials, then fertile land, then availability of water okay, do not affect the location of the urban centers. Nowadays, this location of the urban centers mainly this dependent upon the function. Okay, very simple. As I told you, these industries, industrial towns cannot be located in a place where these minerals are not found. So they have to be located where minerals are found. Okay. And next we have these functions of urban centers. What are the different functions of these urban centers? Now let us see what are the functions. The earliest towns were centers of administration, trade, industry, defense, and religious importance. Okay, so these were the functions. Okay, in the early cities and towns. So early cities, towns perform the function of administration. Then they perform the function of trade, then industry, defense, and religious purposes. Okay, but today some changes are there. Okay, see, today several new functions, in addition to the functions mentioned above, several new functions such as recreational, then residential, transport, mining, manufacturing, and most recently activities related to information technology are carried on specialized towns. Okay, in addition to the functions mentioned above, okay, today several new functions are added. Those are these recreational function, for example, these tourist resorts, then residential function, providing accommodation, then transport, mining, manufacturing. Okay, and most recently these information technology related specialized towns also there. Okay, like this Bangalore of India, then Seattle, okay, in North American countries, like that. Do you know this about the Silicon Forest, then Silicon Valley, like that? Do you remember? So those are examples, okay, that cities related with the information technology. Silicon Valley, Silicon Forest. And next, okay, let us proceed. When we talk about these functions of the cities in a town, we refer to the dominant function. Actually, these big cities perform different functions. Okay, big cities perform multiple functions. They perform different functions, but generally we refer to the dominant function. Okay, when we talk about the functions of the town cities, we have to refer to the dominant function only. We have to mention only the dominant function, the most important function. Say, for example, we think of this Sheffield as an industrial city. Okay, so many functions are these performed by Sheffield, but the dominant function is this industrial city. Okay, so Sheffield, you know, actually this is in this South Yorkshire county in this England. Then we refer London, okay, as a port city, then Chandigarh as an administrative city, and so on. So in this way, say we mainly refer to the dominant function. Okay, and see, towns and cities. Okay, towns and cities in the world are classified into the following categories. So towns and cities are classified into the following categories based on the function. Okay, in other words, functional classification of towns, okay, is given here. So the first important type of town based on function is administrative town. So what are administrative towns? National capitals which house the administrative offices of central government such as New Delhi, Canberra, Beijing, Addis Ababa, Washington DC, and London, okay, are called administrative towns. So any city or town which has a national capital, okay, which is a national capital, and which have these administrative offices, okay, of the central governments or other governments, are called these administrative towns. Examples, say for example New Delhi, then Canberra, okay, that is capital of Australia, then Beijing, okay, China, Addis Ababa, okay, Ethiopia, then Washington DC, USA, London. So these are examples of the administrative towns. And not only this national capital, these state capitals, okay, are also known as administrative towns, okay. Say for example this Imphal, which has these administrative offices. Then like I said, we have this Kohima, then we have the Shillong. All these are examples of these administrative towns, okay. They perform these administrative functions. Next we have these trading and commercial towns, okay. Here see agricultural markets, okay, agricultural market. So this is a subtype of this trading and a commercial town. Agricultural market towns actually performing, okay, the function of this agricultural marketing, such as Winnipeg, okay. So Winnipeg, where is Winnipeg? Winnipeg, this is capital of Manitoba province in Canada. Then Kansas City, okay, that in USA. So this is an example of agricultural market town, okay, marketing agricultural products. Then banking and financial centers, banking and financial towns, okay. Example, we have Frankfurt is the capital of this Hesse Stadt in Germany. Then we have Amsterdam, okay, as an example of banking and a financial center. Amsterdam is the capital of this Netherlands. Then we have large inland centers like this Manchester, okay, in England. Then St. Louis is a major city of this Missouri state in USA. Then we have transport nodes or transport towns such as Lahore in Pakistan, then Baghdad, the capital of Iraq. Then we have Agra in India, okay. All these are important, these transport towns, okay. So remember, see, under these trading and commercial towns we have these subtypes: agricultural market towns, banking and financial towns, and these transport towns with examples. Then next important type of town is cultural towns, okay. Here see places of pilgrimage. What are cultural towns? Actually, cultural towns are mainly referred to the places of pilgrimage, such as Jerusalem, okay, then Mecca. In case of India, we have Jagannath Puri and Varanasi. So these are some examples of cultural towns, okay. And all these urban centers are of great religious importance. So additional functions, okay, additional functions which the cities perform. In addition to these function mentioned above, we have health and recreation towns, okay, health and recreation towns. For example, Miami, okay, Miami is an example of health and recreation town. Where is Miami? It is in Florida state in USA. Then we have Panaji, Goa, okay. Then we have industrial towns, say Petersburg, for example. Petersburg is in Pennsylvania in USA. Then we have Jamshedpur, okay, in India. Then we have mining and quarrying towns, say for example Broken Hill. So Broken Hill is in New South Wales in Australia. Then we have Dhanbad, okay, Dhanbad is in Jharkhand. Then we have transport towns, okay, like Singapore. Then Mughal Sarai is in Uttar Pradesh, okay, where different railways, okay. So actually Mughal Sarai is the junction of different railways. So this is an example of transport town. Okay, up to here, any question? Any question regarding this functional classification of towns? Are you connected? Since no question is coming from you, let me proceed. Okay, here in this section some important features, information are given here. So the meaning of urbanization is given here. Urbanization means the increase in the proportion of population of a country who live in urban areas. So urbanization means increase, okay, in the number of this population in the urban areas. Increase in the proportion of population of a country who live in urban areas. And the most important cause of urbanization is rural to urban migration, that we have already discussed. Okay, most important cause for urbanization, that is increase in the number of population in the big cities, is rural to urban migration. And one more information, developed countries experience rapid urbanization during 19th century, whereas for the developing countries experience rapid urbanization during the second half of the 20th century. That means these developing countries are late. Okay. Next we have this classification of towns on the basis of forms. See, we also have already discussed about this classification of rural settlement on the basis of shapes and forms, okay. And likewise the urban settlements also take some geometrical shapes or near geometrical shapes, like this linear, then square, then star, then crescent shape, like this. And remember, this the form of settlement, architecture, and the style of buildings and other structures are the outcome of its historical and the cultural traditions. Okay, any form of settlement, then architecture, style of building, and other structures are the result of these historical and the cultural traditions. Remember. Depending on the culture, okay, depending on the culture, depending on the religion, you may find, okay, different these styles in the structure of the cities. You may find different styles in the buildings in different parts of the world. That is the point mentioned here. And so here one very important this line is given here. towns and cities of developed and developing countries reflect marked differences in planning and development. Okay, towns and the cities of developed and developing countries reflect marked differences in planning and development. That means there are some differences between the between the cities of developed countries and developing countries, okay, in terms of planning and in terms of development. So this small paragraph simply tells the differences between the cities and the towns of developed and developing countries, okay, with reference to planning and development. So what is the difference given here? See, let us read. While most cities in developed countries are planned, most urban settlements of developing countries have evolved historically with irregular shapes. That means most of the cities in developed countries are planned cities. Okay, are planned cities, planned by these engineers and government. Okay, so they have proper drainage systems and they have these wide enough streets and lanes. Okay, and whereas most of these cities and towns of developing countries have evolved historically with irregular shape. Okay, town cities in these developing countries have irregular shape and they have been developed haphazardly. Okay, not planned. That means, so example of planned cities, for example, we have the Chandigarh, Canberra. Okay, these are examples of planned cities. Chandigarh, Canberra, example of planned cities. While smaller towns in India, okay, have evolved historically from walled cities to urban sprawls. Smaller towns in India, okay, have been evolved, have been these transformed historically from these walled cities to the large urban sprawls, large urban agglomerations. So more about these differences between the towns and the cities of developed and developing countries, okay, are here. Okay, differences between cities of developed and developing countries. Now let us read. Number one point of difference. While most cities in developed countries are planned, as we discussed earlier, most urban settlements of developing countries have evolved haphazardly. For example, Canberra in Australia is a planned city, then while Patna in India is an unplanned city. Okay, then another point of difference, cities in developed countries have irregular shapes, whereas those of developing countries have these irregular shape. Okay, see, let me repeat. Cities in developed countries have regular shapes. Okay, by mistake I told you irregular, so it must be regular. Cities in developed countries have regular shapes. They have definite geometrical shapes. Okay, the streets and land and roads may be cut at right angle, wide enough. They have proper drainage system. Okay, sewerage system. Whereas those of the developing countries have irregular shape because they have been developed haphazardly. Then next point of difference is given here. Cities in developed countries have well-developed basic amenities of life, like supply of drinking water, electricity, public transport system, toilet, etc. Whereas rapid growth of cities in developing countries leave people without or with acute shortage of these facilities. In case of developed countries, okay, those cities in the developed countries have well developed basic amenities of life, like the supply of drinking water, electricity, public transport system, toilets. Okay, whereas for the developing countries, cities in these countries, okay, so may or these may not have these facilities. Sometimes some cities in India may have acute shortage of those facilities mentioned above. Then fourth point, cities in developed countries provide pollution-free, clean environment to the people, whereas in developing countries they are marked by pollution and congestion. Okay, see, these planned cities, actually in most of the planned cities of the world, they do not have these industries, okay, in the middle of the in the heart of the city. Whereas in case of these cities and towns of developed countries, industries may be there, okay, and there may be pollution and there may be congestion, there may be traffic jam, okay, in the cities of the these developing countries. And the last point of difference is given here. Growth of slums and squatter settlement is the main problem of developing countries because of rapid growth and a large-scale migration of people from rural areas, whereas developed countries do not face this problem. So in the cities and the towns of the developing countries, we have shanty colonies, we have slums, okay, of dilapidated houses and poor amenities, and that is mainly because of this rapid rural to urban migration, okay. And whereas in the developed countries, the cities and towns of developed countries do not face this problem of these slums is not there in case of developed countries. So these are the main differences between the cities of developed and developing countries of the world. Okay, any question regarding these differences between cities and towns of developed and developing countries? Okay, then up to here for today. Thank you very much for joining my class.